everyone. Welcome to Or Something. It's the podcast where we talk about all kinds of things, but mostly we talk about the origin of something or something. I'm Kristen, and this is Karla.
Hi.
Ooh, and she's got her new podcasting mic, you guys. It's very exciting. You don't have to listen to the sh of everything.
How dare you? That was part of my je ne sais quoi background noise. Remember, we're CanCon officially, so let's put French in there.
Oh my God, CanCon.
Right?
Canadian content. It's why where we're going to get played. Actually, we have some viewers. People are watching us right now. They're called
someone
listeners.
Doesn't know what a podcast is. Why am I working with her?
You're not working with me. You're working for me. Thank you very much. Just kidding.
Are you?
No, I'm not. No, I am totally kidding. It's a joint effort.
And I wouldn't mind either way. I'm like, you're responsible. I love it. You're a great boss.
Nobody wants to be the boss.
We're so nice to each other. We're so Canadian, too.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, I really don't mind if you're my boss.
Oh.
Continue about our viewers.
Gosh, I know. We have some listeners from Australia, some from Germany, it looks like, or they've just got like IP addresses that go through there for some reason because they're all like criminals, like the serial killers that are like rerouting their IP addresses all the time. Oh my God. I might be a little paranoid and watch way too much true crime.
It's one, like that's legit, and it's like this total crazy person.
Probably.
He already has posters of us, but he doesn't know what we look like, so I'm like Mrs. Potato Head, and you're like, I don't know, Big Bird or something. I can't think of any characters. I'm like, what's tall and blonde?
It's actually pretty accurate.
Well, you're not blonde now, but we'll do descriptive video for the podcast. Yes. So I'm sitting under my laundry rack with a giant quilt over it.
And I'm sitting in my walk-in closet with my messy clothes everywhere that I refuse to fold properly.
I have a giant pile of clothing behind me too, but I hide it behind this quilt screen.
I don't try to hide it.
Man,
soulmates.
Because the brothers got a hug.
Oh my gosh, yeah. How's it going? What's the haps? What's been happening?
The haps. The haps is that of all the mornings for me to sleep in, you know what time I woke up today? I was awake at 7, and I usually read in the morning in bed, so I'm like, okay, I'm fine. I'm awake. I'm wide awake. 11:45. My eyes open. I'm like, huh? Where am I?
Holy cow. I don't think I've slept that late since I was a teenager.
Me neither. And I'm like, really?
I'm
trying to figure out why my subconscious is like making me sleep in. I think it's probably like it's like a performance anxiety for the podcast where I'm like, did I do my research properly?
Well, you've been working so hard on your research because you said you were going to do it in advance. And then you went and raked your yard.
How are you doing?
I'm just like calling you out, just throwing you under the bus. Let's see how many times I can throw you under the bus on this episode.
By the way, I'm unemployed at the moment, so if a future boss ever heard this, it'd be like the worst work ethic thing ever.
Hey, so you're here, aren't you? Who cares how you got here?
Am I here? Am I all here? How are you doing?
I'm good.
Deflect.
Yeah, really, hey? I started volunteering at an animal sanctuary. Ooh.
Good job.
Yeah, it's for farm animals. It's so fun. Aww. So I go and I have to clean, like muck out the barn or whatever.
Ooh. Okay, can I admit I've always wanted to muck out a barn for some reason?
I mean, who doesn't? Come on. I mean, I wouldn't want to do it every day.
Yeah, all the people who do it every day are ticked off right now. Don't glamorize my shitty job.
They're like, this is terrible. Kill me now. No, but it was really cool. And they've got a donkey there named Baby. She's so sweet.
Aww.
And she's so old. She's like a teenager.
You know what?
And
I was obsessed with donkeys. And after you and I did that horse therapy thing for like 2 minutes, I love that I'm not going to give any context other than that for people. Whatever, we've been friends for a long time. Too bad. Context. Suss it out. Oh, it can be a game for listeners. They can start writing clues of like, when did they do this and when did they do that? Well,
or like, does anybody care that much? They will someday.
They will. But also it'll help me remember things because my memory is fading very quickly. So please do listeners, help me. I don't know who I am anymore.
It's podcast therapy.
Yeah, no, I'm But now I'm terrified of donkeys.
Why?
Because they're so pushy. He was like, that donkey was on me and I'm like, get away from me.
Baby was pretty pushy too. When I was cleaning out her thing, she kept like not nudging me, but just standing like really close to me, like zero personal space. And I was like, I kept like kind of laughing and being like, baby, like I need to just like clean this spot. And the people who were training me at the thing, they're like, well, I think she wants attention. I'm like, obviously. But so I started feeling like guilty that I wasn't giving her attention. I'm like, yeah, but I also need to get this done. Like, you can't just give attention to everything the second it asks for it.
The most needy animals at the sanctuary.
Like, why did I go? I feel like I need to bring my tough love attitude to the animal sanctuary. I'm wearing a leather jacket and it's playing like that. What's that? That song from that Michelle Pfeiffer movie? They're all little gangster chickens. Yeah. I don't know why it turned into that.
Oh my gosh. I can't.
Like, why couldn't I give her attention? I felt so conflicted about it where I was like, no, I understand what's happening.
Okay. This is gonna kill me because you're gonna like sass everybody there. I love that you're like this animal behavior expert.
Yeah, like I have no idea.
No, but you're right. No, but you do though, and that's kind of like, what do you do in a situation?
Oh my
like
God.
That? Where, yeah, you're right. Like, why would I give him attention 24/7? Oh my God, the attitude. That was the best thing I've ever heard. And now we're both crying. Descriptive video.
Oh my gosh. But it was nice. It was fun to be like around the animals. I fed an egg to a big pig. It was cool. And a turkey got the very first thing that happened when I got there. You're laughing so hard. Stop. It's contagious.
I'm sorry. But like, just the idea of I imagine you just picking up an egg from a chicken and it's just like,
that
there's a baby in there.
They collected eggs from the chickens there.
I mean, yeah, it just sounds
it wasn't
a
fertilized egg. No, it's fine. They like it. Not the chickens, but the pigs.
Talk about her, I'll never make it. Oh my God. The images in my head. This is the best. Oh my God. I need an update every time you go.
Okay. It'll happen.
Oh my God. That's the greatest thing ever. Feeding the animals to each other, sassing the donkey.
Basically, yeah. It was good though. It was nice to be around animals. There's lots of pigs there. Oh my gosh, there's this brand new pig there he's really little and he's only been there for like 2 weeks. He's new. His name's Gordon, but they're like, you can call him Gordy or Gordo, so I call him Gordo all the time.
Aww.
But he's
stand by me.
Yeah, but he's so happy and just like wagging his little tail and he comes running and will like just follow you everywhere. Like especially if they think you have treats, all the animals just follow you everywhere. Aww. It's really cute.
And also unstructured and
everybody back off.
Detrimental to They're all going to be lined up perfectly when you go next time. Like you're going to get them all in order. You donkey, muck out the stable.
I make them do their own work. Clean your damn house. What am I, your mother?
You'll get that place in order soon. Let's not say the name of it.
Yeah, we won't after all these antics. Jeez.
Yeah. But.
All right. Should we get started? Our episode last week was pretty long. Yeah, I guess. Well,
was it really? Oh, okay.
It was, but I mean, who cares?
Yeah, that's true.
Our one listener who's stalking us is fine with it.
But they only have like an hour in jail to listen to a podcast and they couldn't hear the last 10 minutes and they're just like freaking out right now.
Yeah. Don't go over 60 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, Fred. I'd love to guess. Okay, no, sorry.
To guess what his name is?
Yeah. I was going to go on a whole tangent. Let's just continue.
Oh my God. Okay, is it your turn to go first? Do you want to go first?
I think so.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Sure. Can I just say how excited I am that I have an actual microphone? Like I'm vibrating from excitement because like I don't want to sound like all garbagey.
That's good.
I mean, apart from the stuff coming out of my mouth.
I want everyone to hear the crap that I'm spewing really clearly.
Yeah. I go into this whole pro-Trump thing all of a sudden. What?
Yeah, please don't.
Never. I just had to be clear in case anyone gets the wrong idea. No, oh my God, I have so much to talk about. It's like, and it has nothing to do with the podcast. Focus. I was just going to start
just
gossiping
talking.
over. Yeah.
Gossiping.
It wasn't gossip. Anyway. Okay. This topic. Okay, there's a bit of reading in it. I know it's not spontaneous and fabulous, but it's okay. I think it is the cutest thing I think I've ever researched in my entire life.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I'm doing dog food. I don't know where.
No way.
Mostly
oh my gosh,
kibble.
I'm actually kind of terrified about it.
No. Like
okay.
it's so cute.
Oh, cool.
I can't even.
I would have thought the history of dog food or like the origin of dog food would have been like really gross and awful.
I mean,
kind of like the history.
It's not entirely pleasant, but that's more canned food. I'm going to focus a little bit more on kibble.
Okay, cool.
But it's
Oh, awesome.
Okay. Okay. So, dogs were domesticated. Like people are kind of on the fence about it. They're not on the fence. They just don't have actual concrete evidence. They're wishy-washy. But like up to like some people say 16,000 years ago. Some people say 30,000 years ago. Like it's
whoa. That long ago?
Yeah, and I know, it's crazy, right?
Did humans even exist then? Who was domesticating them? Neanderthals? Like, what the hell? That's crazy.
Well, by domestication,
the dinosaurs had a little dog.
We're never going to get through anything. But like by domestication, they don't mean like pets. It's more like having them actually cooperate willingly with humans.
Oh, okay.
That kind of domestication. Okay. So they say around like 2000 BCE, the dogs were like people were starting to consider how to take care of the dogs properly, not just like fend for yourselves or eat a scrap of bone or whatever, right?
That's so early. Oh my God, that's like way earlier than I thought it would be.
All right, okay. So a lot of these little blurbs come from like farmers' manuals, like agricultural books that were written at the time. But I have to read these little suggestions.
Okay.
This is the cutest thing. It won't come across as cute, but whatever. Okay. So around this guy, he lived around like 116 to 27 BCE. He did a farming manual. He said dogs should eat meat, bones, and barley soaked in milk.
Sounds pretty tasty.
Virgil wrote in 37 BCE, "Do not let the care of dogs be last, but the swift Spartan hounds and fierce mastiff feed the whey." And whey has been in human diets for like forever. People are finding it like the protein remnants of whey. Whey is the like liquid that's left over when milk has curdled, and they take that curdled milk and they make cheese out of it usually. But the whey is the leftover stuff, and it's full of protein. And humans like have subsisted on it since ancient times, right?
Okay.
But so that's something they fed to their dogs too. And then somebody with the name Columella. I'm like, that is the funniest name I've ever heard. 70 CE, he said. If the fields are so large as to sustain herds of animals, barley meal mixed with whey is a convenient food. But if it is an orchard without grain, then use spelt or wheat bread, which is then mixed with the liquid from cooked beans, but warm, for boiling creates rabies.
What?
Yeah. It is the funniest thing I've ever heard. They have dog recipes, dog food recipes.
Oh my gosh.
And it sounds like they're really genuinely...
And it's like pretty specific. Like they're
right?
pretty detailed.
Very
Not just
detailed.
like throw out your old soup bones for them.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
And they would do that, but they would be very clear of like, don't give them only bones and only meat because they'll get sick. And if your dog is sick, then just give them goat's milk. And usually like they mix bread and like barley, like grains and stuff with like a bit of meat. And I was crying. I'm like, this is so cute. Little dog food recipes.
Who the heck would have thought? That's so early.
I just love it. The cooked beans, but warm because boiling creates rabies.
Yeah, like
so cute. I don't like.
They're
What's
so
the
smart and
science
so
there?
stupid all at once. Yeah, I know.
Right. And then someone said in 2024 CE, so this is still going forward, these little dog recipes, bring ye unto him milk and fat with meat. This is the right food for the dog. I'm like, you're so cute.
Aww.
Right. Medieval times, still carrying forward the like royal kennel masters. So they started, because by the medieval times, they needed their hunting dogs, right? Like to be strong and taken care of. Like they all had, not all of them, but the wealthy people, right? They had their...
Right.
I don't know if they were ever guard dogs, but that would be a whole other topic, like what dogs are actually used for, right? Like their jobs. But there was like a difference. So wealthy people, they would give their dogs like the kennel masters, the royal kennel masters. They do nutritious stews, so like veggies mixed with meat and grains. And but then peasants, they had to give their dogs whatever they ate. And in like Europe, for example.
So gruel.
Well, in Europe, it was mostly potatoes and boiled cabbage. So can you imagine all the
fart
stinky
monster
little
dogs?
dogs? Yeah, I know. So cute. So by medieval times already, dogs were kind of starting to be seen as pets.
Okay.
Right?
Whoa. Okay.
Not to bring in the house yet, I don't think.
Yeah.
It was more like, oh, okay, let's take care of, Binky, because
But, like,
Binky,
maybe a
of
bit
all dog names. Nice.
But a
So,
bit
yeah,
more
and-
like a part of the family. Like in
Yeah,
a way
something
of
to
like
take care
they're
of.
part of like
Exactly.
the household that's
Yeah.
happening kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, and something that they should, kind of like, that it wasn't as expendable, basically.
Right.
Like,
It would be interesting to see because like it'd be interesting to see if that developed kind of at the same time as like kids not being as expendable kind of thing, like because kids were never like childhood was never a thing for the longest time.
Right.
There was no focus on it, so it'd be interesting to see if it was kind of simultaneous that like, okay, these creatures that are around us that are like, they're just paying a bit more attention, being a little bit more nurturing towards them to have a stronger household in general, right?
And we look, and then there's little baby recipes. Don't boil the beans; they're gonna get rabies.
They'll get rabies for sure.
They won't work in the coal mines as hard. So this carried on, these little recipes. They find evidence all the way up to like the 1800s. Another cute one. Give them twice a day a soup of coarse bread made with water, fat, and the bottom of the stew pot. Put a half kilogram of bread at least in each soup.
No way.
Can we just agree that that's the cutest thing in the history of the world?
It's pretty cute.
Like, this perfect little, like, somebody had to be standing there writing this down of like, what would, Snowy and Binky like?
Yeah. Well, and that
good for
people
them?
were like wanting to learn about it too, right? Because obviously if they're like making a recipe for it, it's because other people need to know it, right? And they're
Right?
teaching each other.
Yeah.
That's
So,
cool.
I don't know. Okay, so then, big shift. 1800s. Dun, dun, dun. So after the Industrial Revolution, there was increase in the middle class, right?
Right.
So more affluent kind of people. And that's where the shift came, where people started seeing dogs as pets. But there's a distinction. There were working dogs, and then there were the more civilized, that's what they called them, pets, that would they would start bringing them into the home. And 1860 was like this pivotal, this is the moment where dog food basically was created.
Okay.
Commercial dog food. So yes, there were recipes, but this American from Ohio, entrepreneur, and that'll be very important later, that he's a businessman. He went to the UK, 1860. He's putzing around by the docks, the harbor there, in London, I guess. I don't know where the hell
I
he
mean,
was.
where
I think
else are you going to hang out when you
Yeah,
visit a place?
right.
Go to the docks.
And he noticed that sailors were discarding like old or stale, like hardtack. And hardtack was something that sailors made. It was basically a cheap, imperishable food. So it was just flour, water, and sometimes salt baked to oblivion, basically. So these like hard biscuits.
Oh my gosh, it was dog food for people.
Yeah, basically.
For sailors.
And yeah, he noticed that the sailors would either like feed the stray dogs on the harbor there, or the dogs would just find it and like scrounge and scavenge for it, right? And he had a light bulb moment. He's like, wait, these dogs are eating this. So like, I think people will want to feed their dogs something that's like shelf stable.
Yeah.
And he made the first...
That you don't have to prepare every day, multiple times a day.
Yeah, or you don't share your scraps with them, and it's not this whole, you don't have to use meat, which is, pretty scarce thing probably back then.
Yeah.
Like good quality meat for people.
Yeah.
But, although there's a catch here.
Oh,
so
geez.
his recipe was wheat, veggies, beetroot, and one site said beef blood. But this is the funny part. Just read this a little bit. This was from the Farmer's Digest website. They had a nice article about the whole history of dog food. Farmer's Dog Digest.
Oh.
I don't know if I said that, but I'm like, that's adorable.
That's
anyway,
so cute.
so his recipe was like the beets and all that, but the dried, unsalted, gelatinous parts of prairie beef. I don't know what prairie beef is, but I don't think anyone knew what prairie beef is, because Spratt remained notoriously tight-lipped about his biscuit's specific meat source. Sorry.
So just anything he could find around him, basically.
That's what
he's
thinking.
from Ohio or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking there's a lot of gopher in that. I just thought prairie dog. That's what it's going to be. Little gophers.
Because what else is prairie beef?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, we know in Canada what prairie beef
We know.
Oh my gosh. So the problem here a little bit was like, I mean, it's not a problem. It's just the middle class, they had money, and so he was going to market to them. So he basically marketed to English country gentlemen who had sporting dogs. Right?
Okay.
So they'd go and they'd have the money to feed their dogs, this kind of thing.
Right.
This is the crazy part. So he's a businessman, right? He marketed this dog food. It was called, let me see. Sorry, I got the name written down.
Alpo.
Spratt's meat fibrine dog cakes. Little dog cakes.
Little dog cakes. Aw.
Yeah. So he marketed this so aggressively that, according to one source, it was one of the most heavily advertised products of the 20th century.
What? Of the 20th century?
Yes. He
Oh my
utilized
God.
billboards, which were a new thing. He targeted health-conscious pet owners, dog show participants, right? Like, he was all over it. He was a marketing,
Whoa.
savant, or whatever you'd call it. A savant. He bought the cover of the American Kennel Club's, I think, first issue. I'm not sure if it was first, but definitely one of a whole cover just for his thing, dog cakes.
Whoa.
He shared testimonials, so he would gather testimonials from his clients, and his company anyway, because at some point it was bought by a British company in the 1800s, but then they opened a American factory, so it's kind of like back and forth across the pond. I'm not quite sure how long he
probably sold parts of it, maybe.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. But the company pioneered animal life stages. So they had Sprat's dog and puppy cakes.
No. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, little
And the
puppy
picture of
cakes.
it, like, is really quite cute. So if anybody wants to Google Sprat's puppy cakes, it's just adorable.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, that was like the huge turning point, basically.
Whoa.
And then, so I'll just go into a little bit of like what happened after that, but it wasn't really, I didn't really want to go that far into the future, but
Yeah.
so end of World War One, the Ken L ration brand, so it's like Ken-L ration
Okay.
brand. Actually, let me explain. After World War One, there was an excess of horses.
Oh no.
And there was also a need for convenient food, convenience for like everybody with cooking. And
Right.
so Kennel Ration Brand made the first canned horse meat for dogs, basically. They didn't advertise, hey, this is horse meat. It was like lean red meat.
It's
on
prairie
the
meat.
can.
It's
Yeah.
racetrack meat.
Excessive war thing meat. Racetrack meat.
Just
I love that.
soldiers. What?
Oh my God, that's so dark. Oh my God. Feed your loved ones to your loved ones. Gross. That was
is
so
disgusting.
disrespectful, but hilarious. So, yeah, that was the beginning of that. But then World War II came along and they had to start rationing everything. Like tin, they couldn't just, they had to ration. Like there was a shortage, I guess,
yeah.
of tin. I'm not quite sure. But meat was rationed. And by that point, people were getting ticked off about the horses being... people started breeding horses specifically to be slaughtered for dog food. So I think people were kind of like, okay,
Whoa.
like an excess, fine.
Yeah.
Don't start breeding them. Which is, I think, kind of silly because we do that with horses.
Yeah, like why would
cows
they?
and pigs.
Why did they draw the line at horses?
Right.
Maybe
That's
because
like
they
us with
had
dogs.
such a connection to them in that, like,
Yeah.
because I guess they'd used horses for so long as
Yeah.
tools in other ways,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, but like a bunch of like the companies like Spratz and everything, they didn't want to like, actually, this is the funny part. So the canned meat, like it was kind of this tension between like people were like, well, do we feed kibble or do we feed meat to our dogs? Like which one is it?
Yeah.
And the shift back to kibble, because that canned meat was huge because it was cheap, it was convenient, it was in a can, it was shelf stable, it was right. The people had to get innovative. They're like, well, we can't use meat really anymore. We can't use tins. So all these big like Nabisco, General Mills, Quaker Oats, people started realizing that the byproducts from cereal manufacturers could be used to make kibble again.
Oh, no
So-
way.
Yeah, like Nabisco, General Mills, Quaker Oats, they all basically got in on this new kibble,
Yeah.
I guess, recraze. Recraze, new word. Because they could make shelf-stable kibble that could be stored in bags or cardboard boxes. So they were
So
like,
it solved the problem of the tin and all that kind of
yeah.
stuff.
And then in 1956, there was a new process called extrusion, which was a way of like, they'd have their like wet and dry ingredients, and it would go through extreme heat kind of thing. And I can't quite remember the exact process, but basically it was this like way to make super shelf stable kibble. They would like chop it up at the end, and the only problem with extrusion was that it would like leach all the vitamins and nutrition out of the like ingredients, because it
Yeah.
was such an extreme heat
Yeah.
type of situation and drying and everything. But then, yeah, and then in the 60s and 70s, veterinarian science, like vet nutrition and veterinarian diets became popular, and people were really pushing the vet diets and that kind of thing. So there were like prescription kibble and kibble for specific,
Right.
right? And so there was like a very aggressive, again, ad campaign. So basically, advertising was huge when it came to dog food, like immediately, right? Ad campaign, going back to that in the 70s, where they were like, kibble is the only thing you should feed your dogs, kind of thing, right?
Wow.
And so, yeah, so kind of went full circle back to kibble and the aggressive ad campaign again. So people were like at the mercy of these like wealthy people who were like, quick, let's be innovative. We have an excess of dog meat or horse meat, dog meat. Oh my God. Horse meat. Let's can it and give it to our dogs, right? And then kibble, same thing. It's like, oh, we don't have food, like
business
meat,
people, right?
Yeah.
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 Wow.
So, I mean, people now, I think they're starting to they definitely are starting to kind of fight back, and they're like, okay, let's stop feeding our dogs whatever garbage we can find.
Yeah.
And
now there's, all the people that are doing like the raw diets for their dogs.
Right.
And where they'll actually like.
I think it's so great that it goes back to the ancient times where people are probably, they're looking at little recipes. They're sharing them online of like, okay, well, make some rice or mix it with this or carrots. And
it was so funny because I ran into somebody that said that they cook a meal like they cook their dog's meal kind of at the same time that they're cooking their meal.
Yeah.
Like they cook a meal for their dog.
Yeah.
And I was like, in my mind, it sounded so ridiculous. Where I was like, you do what? And
yeah,
like,
me too.
Yeah, but we do like just chicken and some rice and some veggies.
Yeah.
Or like that's what's they're supposedly in their food anyway.
Right. Which, yeah.
And but it sounded so weird where I'm like, you're making a meal for your dog because we're so not used to that at all.
And we're used to the convenience of like, give them kibble and
Yeah, but I'm like, in theory, they can eat a lot of the foods that we can eat,
right.
like in certain, have specific recipes for them or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
And there are a lot of foods, I think, that maybe it might give people pause where they're like, well, because you can't feed dogs onions and garlic and those kind of things, right? So they're like, well, what should I feed my dog? Or like, it seems
you don't need to season it in the same way.
That's the thing. Like you don't. It's just you keep it. It's so simple. It's kind of like we're so conditioned to be kind of almost afraid to give our dogs just normal food.
I think that it's so complex that there's some other fancy stuff that it has to be this dog food, that it can't just be, the bottom of the stew pot and beans that aren't boiled,
and some barley or whey or like, and I'm just thinking, and it's funny because I was at the farm the other week and my friend was saying that there were some leftover beets in the field. We hadn't dug them up completely yet. Yeah. And the coyotes were taking them and eating them.
Aww.
And I don't know why that just floored me. I'm like, what? Right? And when I read that Sprat put beets in his little dog biscuit recipe, I thought that is so crazy. I just wouldn't think that the wild dog would just go and dig up beets to eat for,
Yeah.
I was going to say for fun.
They're
getting high on beets somehow.
This is fun.
Look how cute they are.
Yeah.
I'm eating a chicken like drumstick. Are you hungry? Eat your beets. So
gosh, that was awesome.
Sorry, I was hyper during that whole thing. I'm like, I need to spit it all out.
I love that. That was so cool.
Yeah.
I totally thought it would be a much more gruesome beginning. I mean, there's definitely some gross stuff in there,
but it's kind of not so bad, and it's like really sweet.
Yeah,
too.
The biggest thing that I remember with Farlow, when I had my dog, was that I always fed him like pedigree, which is like everybody looks down on, like, don't feed them the big mass like foods. It's so bad for them and blah, 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 blah. And so, like, when we initially got him, we fed him, like, really high-end stuff, but it just didn't sit well with his stomach, like the high protein and all that kind of stuff. It just wasn't...
Yeah.
It just didn't suit him, and I just kept going back to him, like, well, the cheap stuff, like, he really likes it, and he's healthy. I mean, he lived until he was 13 as a big dog that's pretty old, and he didn't have any health issues. Yeah. But I always felt guilty about it. I always felt like I was being judged when I went to the vet, and I was like, listen, I've tried all the different ones. I tried all the really crazy expensive ones that are all these special formulas, and it just they never sat well with him. He didn't like them as much. Like, it just wasn't a thing. And I always went back to pedigree and it was fine, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's so much wrapped up in that now, I think, because we like take this, you know, pet ownership thing so serious. Like, everybody takes everything so seriously now. Like, we have to do all of these intricate things to be taking care of something properly. Yeah. And I'm like, he was fine.
Honestly,
probably would have been better if I'd cooked for him, but maybe not.
Well, I mean,
my cooking skills.
It's sort of like, I mean, a lot of the fancier dog food now brands, like there's still Kibble. And I'm thinking, are you still using Extrusion? Is there actual nutrition in here? Or are you just, you know, covering it all up? Like a lot of Kibble brands, they'll have like just whatever garbage. And then they do a coating of like lard or something, like chicken fat or something. So it's kind of tasty.
Yeah.
And I mean, and there are some good quality foods out there where companies like really strive to, you know.
But still, as Kibble, I think there's only so much, like, so good it can be, right?
For any shelf stable thing, I'm like,
yeah.
Right? But then
it's like
really
for us,
fresh.
like if you're eating processed foods, like there's only so healthy it can ever get because it's still a processed food.
And that's
it's got
what I was going to
preservatives
say,
in
that
it, right?
we eat garbage as well. And as long as it's just within, you know, like... I just, like, because it's like, you know, the people who feed their dogs Cheetos or whatever. Like, okay.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Easy there, right? But, like, yeah, I don't know. I just think it's sort of like with like our health, how people are like adamant, oh, paleo and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And like some people think dogs are purely carnivorous, but that's not true.
That's not true.
Even if they do just hunt
they
primarily
like beets.
Meat. They like beets, but like, you know, even with like, I think it was wolf diets where they are eating the animal and they're eating what's inside like the deer's digestive thing too. So they do sometimes eat like, you know, they just kind of, even if it's inadvertent, they're the grains and the grasses and berries and stuff that they end up eating, right? So, yeah, I think people need to kind of like allow animals to kind of have a nice, well-rounded diet.
Yeah, I think it just goes back to us being so like disconnected from nature, which is a whole different like topic. Like, we don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but...
We don't? 3 hours later.
3 hours later, yeah.
But they like beets. What?
What are we talking about anymore? That was awesome. I love it. Yay. Well done.
Dang. This is brutal having a time limit because I'm like, let's
chat.
There isn't
really a time limit. We can keep chatting.
How dare you? No, I want to hear yours. I'm so excited.
Okay.
Wait, it's Halloween, right?
Yeah.
Based, kind of, lately?
Yeah. Okay, so here's I didn't know because you and we never know the topics that we're gonna do in advance, so it's like a fun surprise for us. But because Halloween was coming up, I was like, ooh, I really want to do something Halloween related, and I had a few different like ideas in mind in case you were doing something very Halloween-y, and then I was like, I can do just an offshoot or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was like, damn it, I really just want to do, like, what if neither one of us does, like, the big one? And then it's like this opportunity missed. I just couldn't handle it. So I texted you saying, like, hey, is your topic, like, Halloween related at all?
I didn't even think of it.
No, I didn't even think of it. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, yeah, well, mine isn't really Halloween. Like, I tried to downplay it so much. Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. I almost died because I'm like, well, is anyone doing Halloween related? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I was like, yeah, way to keep your cool.
Immediately.
Yeah, immediately. Oh yeah, me neither. I just was checking. I was trying to be so casual about it. Because I was like, I don't want to ruin you, like, knowing what I'm going to be talking about.
And no, I still have no clue. No clue. Okay. Can I guess?
Sure.
Because I love guessing, apparently.
Yeah,
that's my thing. Jack-o'-lanterns?
No. That's the only thing I didn't really cover in this. But
really?
I'm going to, yeah.
Ooh.
Okay. So I started out wanting to figure out the origin of trick-or-treating. But I actually discovered like the origin of Halloween itself. So it's kind of like a double whammy of both of those things because they're obviously very connected. And like Halloween like existed, like kind of existed, but the two things are so like basically from the beginning people have been doing trick-or-treating. They just didn't call it that. Like from the beginning of like Halloween. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
It was so interesting. Oh my gosh. Okay, so my sources are Wikipedia, obviously, and history.com had like a whole bunch of really great
Wait.
articles and lists.
My sources. I can't. Hold on. I'm so sorry, but I have to share them. I used Wiki, the Farmer's Dog Digest, stevesrealfood.com blog thing, americankennelclub.org, petfoodinstitute.org. Thanks.
Awesome.
Sorry.
It's okay. Okay, so I've kind of got this like, it's like kind of chronological, kind of broken up into different sections of whatever. So the ancient precursor to trick-or-treating that people say isn't really totally connected to Halloween and that type of thing, but some people kind of like call back to it as like it kind of existed. The idea of kids going door to door and getting treats and like having to kind of do something for it, like singing a song or whatever. Like it goes back to ancient times.
Yeah.
So it's recorded that the Greek island of Rhodes had a custom in which children would go door to door dressed as swallows, singing a song, and demanded that the owners of the house give them food. And if they refused to give them food, they threatened to cause mischief.
I can't.
Isn't that crazy?
This
Like,
is
why?
one of the top 10 facts I've ever heard in my whole life. Are you kidding me right now?
No.
You did not just do that. No. That's amazing. I'm dying on the inside. Like dying. This is the coolest thing I've ever heard. And so cute.
So apparently that whole custom, there wasn't that much information about it. I didn't really want to go down that rabbit hole because they said it wasn't totally connected to the modern trick-or-treating.
Right.
But
thank you for including it because, hello, that's adorable.
I had to because I was like, what is happening? Why was this a tradition there? And they said the only sentence they had was that it was like started by this law guy, like a lawyer or like law person.
Yeah.
And he had some name that I didn't recognize, like some ancient Greek name. And that was it. Like, just that it was supposedly started by this guy. And I'm like, what? He just got a bunch of kids together and demanded, like, bullied people into giving them food or they would cause mischief? Like, what?
Okay.
Like, isn't that crazy? So I had to include it because it's hilarious and I knew you would love it.
Yes. Oh my God. That's the greatest thing. We're done. That's it. You can stop.
It. Episode's over. We're done.
Podcast complete.
Okay, so the origins of Halloween and trick-or-treating are most commonly, like everybody pretty much agrees that it had a Celtic beginning.
Oh.
So they're linked to a Celtic festival called Samhain, and it's spelled Samhain. Samhain.
That's how you say it.
Yeah, and I actually did it this time where I went onto Google and I was like, how do you pronounce it? And I listened to the voice thing. It's
Good
Samhain.
job.
And then I spelled it phonetically through my whole thing because I was like, I'm going to forget how to say that.
I have come across that in so many Harry Potter fanfics. It's not even funny. I'm like, Samhain? What is this? Samhain?
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't say it. So
I know, and I was trying to say it so many times in my head, but it's not any of those because it's not connected to...
No, how did you say it again?
Samhain.
Oh, Samhain. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So it began roughly 2,000 years ago. It commemorated the end of the harvest season and the blurring of the physical and spirit worlds.
Okay.
It was seen as a liminal time when spirits or fairies and the souls of the dead came into our world and they were appeased with offerings of food and drink.
That's familiar. I've like kind of heard that a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought weirdly that it would start in America for some reason.
I know, right?
Like with the witch hunt stuff or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Starts with the witch hunts.
Sorry, go on.
The ancient Celts who lived in the area that is now Ireland, the United Kingdom, and northern France marked Samhain as the midpoint between the fall equinox and the winter solstice. So during this time of year, hearth fires in family homes were left to burn out completely with while the harvest was being gathered. Sorry, my spelling here is terrible. After the harvest work was complete, they would celebrate with the druid priests to light massive bonfires and pray and eat and all that kind of stuff. So they would like let the fires go out, and then they would like have a big bonfire as like part of their thing.
Oh.
But they wrote like to light massive bonfires and pray, and I'm like, yeah, because who doesn't like praying during a celebration? I'm like, I think they're doing more than just praying.
Halloween, because you just have to go door to door and pray at every door.
Yeah, exactly. So Celts believed that the barrier between the physical and spirit worlds was breachable during Samhain. They expected that ancestors might cross over during this time. During some celebrations, villagers disguised themselves in costumes made of animal skins
to avoid like dead granny ghosts. What is this?
Yeah, to drive away phantom visitors. So like some of it was that they would drive away the phantom visitors, and some places said they disguised themselves as these like almost like not demons really, but like as these otherworldly things, so that they would be protected, so that when these spirits came, they would think that they were one of them, right?
Right.
And that they would be protected and whatever.
Oh, wait. So, sorry, so not like spirit, like ancestor spirit people, just like weird kind of fairy demon type.
Just
spirits.
any spirits.
Oh.
Some people said that like their ancestors could cross over at that time, so go from the living to the dead, right? Cross over into the other realm.
Yeah.
And then
Would people be excited about that?
a little bit, but I think they also were very aware that like that wasn't the only purpose. They were just knew that at that time of the year, that there was like that the
Why would
worlds
you be excited about ghosts anyway?
were connected.
I'm so stupid. Oh my god.
So at this time, banquet tables were prepared and food was left out to placate unwelcome spirits.
Oh.
So there's costumes happening, there were celebrations, there was a lot of like the spirit and physical worlds coming together and all of that happening and placating these spirits with food.
Yeah.
Okay. And then...
But they're just attracting them with food? Nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't feed the bears.
Here, spirit. And then the Christians came.
Wait, were there spirit recipes?
Yes.
Some beets?
Well, soon there are some cakes happening in mine too.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then the Christians came. So in the 7th century, the Catholic Church established November 1st as All Saints' Day, which is literally a day commemorating all the saints of the church.
Right.
By the 9th century, the influence of Christianity had spread into Celtic lands and gradually blended with and eventually supplanted older Celtic rites. Mm-hmm. In 1000 AD, the church made November 2nd All Souls' Day, which was a day to honor the dead. So we've got November 1st is All Saints' Day, so it's all about the saints. And then the next day is All Souls' Day, a day to honor the dead.
Okay.
It's widely believed that the church was attempting to replace the Celtic Festival of the Dead with a related church-sanctioned holiday, which is shocking and definitely didn't happen with any other holidays ever, like Christmas or Easter.
I mean,
that's my own thing I put in there. Like, doesn't sound like the church at all. Oh, God. Okay, so the All Saints' Day celebration was also called All Hallows or All Hallowmas. Like
what?
Christmas, like hallow with M-A-S on the back. From the Middle English, All Hallowmessa, meaning All Saints' Day.
What?
So that's kind of where the words came from. And
wait, so Christmas is Christ's Day?
Yeah.
I know what Mas means now.
And the night before, so that was traditionally Samhain, so October 31st, began to be called All Hallows Eve because it was the eve before All Hallows. Or like All Hallowsmas, which was All Saints' Day. And
what?
Yeah, so it began to be called All Hallows Eve, and so eventually turned into Halloween. Over many centuries, the three holidays, so All Saints' Day, All Souls' Day, and Samhain, eventually merged into one, which is known as Halloween. now. Isn't that crazy?
So, wow. But then, well, so is that why some Christian people, like fanatics, because there's already people in our neighborhoods like leaving little letters of like, it's Satan's holiday and blah, blah, blah. Like they're really like anti-Halloween for some reason.
Yeah, because I think some like super, like now some super, very, like a friend of mine when I was in elementary school, her mom was super religious and would not let them, like she was not supportive of Halloween at all. Like she was so against it because she's like, you're inviting the devil in and you're inviting these like things in and whatever kind of thing. But I mean, back in the day.
But back in the day, they were like fending them off, really.
Yeah.
So
who knows? I mean, a lot of extreme religion people do a lot of stuff that isn't necessarily connected to what
exactly
is happening.
It's
right?
just fascinating.
Yeah. Okay, so now the Middle Ages, so going as far back as even the 14th century. In England and Ireland during All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day celebrations, poor people started visiting wealthier houses and they would receive pastries called soul cakes in exchange for a promise to pray for the souls of the homeowner's dead relatives. This became known as souling. The practice was later taken up by children who would go from door to door asking for gifts such as food, money, and ale, which is funny. They're just getting drunk.
Oh, little drunkards.
Souling was recorded in parts of Britain, Flanders, southern Germany, and Austria. Shakespeare even mentions the practice in his comedy, The Two Gentlemen of Verona, which was written in 1593.
Wow.
Yeah. So that became like a really, so it's kind of that door-to-door, like, connection to the dead. They're praying for them, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like, it's all connected of being, like, protected from the souls and all that kind of stuff.
I would never think, I thought they were so immediately, opposed to each other. Like, that it was like a constant like fight between like the Christian and the
like good and evil type thing,
and the Halloween
like,
type people, right? Like revelers or something like that, right? But the fact that they're just so blended, it's like it's hard to wrap my head around it.
Yeah, that the origins are a lot more in religion than I think because those celebrations were so strong, like the pagan celebrations were so strong. I mean, it's like Christmas and it's like all of these and Easter or whatever, like those celebrations already existed, and the only reason Christianity could get any kind of foothold was by creating their own version of it and their own thing to go along with it and kind of twist it that way, because nothing happens overnight, right? Like they have to slowly kind of put their mark on it in a way, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah. So the wearing of costumes or guising at Hallowmas had been recorded in Scotland in the 16th century. All over the UK, there were variations of youths dressing up and going house to house, reciting verses or singing songs in exchange for food. So
do you think because they were still on different days, Hallowmas and...
It was kind of blending together. So from October 31st to November 2nd, it kind of always was like, became this blended thing. So generally in that 3-day period, it was like...
the costumes and the soul cake thing, did you think that they were ever separate, like in the same place? Or do you think...
What do you mean, like at a different... They were doing it at a different time? Or only ever at this time of year?
No, like if in the same town, for example, they had like some people dressing up guising and some people not, and just asking for soul cakes. Like,
so generally, like guising tended to be a little bit more connected to Scotland. They called it guising and dressing up and doing whatever.
Interesting.
In England and Ireland, but also like Flanders, southern Germany, Austria, all those places, it was a little bit more souling, but some of them were like a bit interchangeable. Like I think it became like there were some blurred lines there. It wasn't so distinct.
Right, yeah.
But guising was much more like actually dressing up in costume, dressing up in disguise, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they would go sing songs, recite verses in exchange for food. If a household donated food, they could expect good fortune, but if they refused, they could expect misfortune. And so that's kind of where like the mischief kind of angle comes in a little bit too. And this went on for centuries. So now we skip to the earliest known occurrence of the practice of guising at Halloween in North America. And it was in 1911.
Okay.
And guess where?
Benjamin Franklin's house.
With Thomas Jefferson. He was there. No.
Eating mac and cheese. What?
It was in Canada.
Get out!
Yes. The first known occurrence of the practice of guising at Halloween, so dressing up in disguise, in North America was in 1911. A newspaper in Kingston, Ontario, Canada, reported about children going guising around the neighborhood. And the earliest known use of the term trick or treat appears in 1927 in an article written in Blackie, Alberta. Isn't that crazy? So
Get
Blackie.
out of here! I can't handle this.
Isn't that nuts? I was so
God.
shocked, and I kept double checking to make sure. I'm like, I'm not in like Canadian Wikipedia. Am I like somehow on some weird Canadian twisted site? But I'm like, no, it was like the earliest like known appearances of these things. Isn't that crazy?
Okay,
and also
I'm
for
losing
people, there is a small town in Alberta in Canada that's named Blackie.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate, but it exists.
Well, it's like when people name their dogs Blackie. I can't.
I know, like
So
why?
why would they name their town that yet?
I know, it's terrible.
Maybe he had a dog named Blackie.
We had when I used to work in corporate insolvency, we had a company that went bankrupt that was from that town.
Yeah.
And their name was like Blackie whatever. I can't even remember, like Blackie Equipment or something like that.
Yeah.
And so our filing, the way that we filed everything and the way we called all of our file names by like some abbreviation, right? So it was always filed just as Blackie.
Oh my God.
And I felt terrible every time we would talk about this file or we would look at it and we all were like, we need this one to be over.
Yeah, because oh man,
Like, this is terrible.
that's unfortunate.
So trick-or-treating in North America didn't really become widespread until the 1930s. It stalled a little bit during World War II because of sugar rationing, but then it quickly came back after the war was over.
Oh, hold on. Mm-hmm. Soul cakes were sweet?
I don't know. They didn't really. I think they were generally a bit sweet. Like they literally were.
Because
just
they went
these,
from
They weren't like
ale-
elaborate. They were like probably pretty close to little like biscuits or like little like almost maybe tea biscuits or cookies or something like that. Like
because it's like with the soul cakes, it's almost like poor people are like, hey, can you give us some scraps, some food, like something tasty or whatever, or ale. But like, yeah, so it's interesting that shift to sweets.
yeah, and that it ended up being like only a sugary type thing.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff about people talking about a lot of people equated it to begging because it had been done by the poor people. It was seen a little bit as like asking for food, that type of thing. So especially in North America when it came over, and it was they believe that it was largely brought over by the Irish and Scottish immigrants. And that's why it was starting in North America, because there were such big groups of those people and they kind of stuck together and they had done it for centuries, like for so long.
Right.
Back home, it was such a tradition for them, and that's how it kind of got brought over to North America.
But then you can easily see how people, like the affluent, like people already in Canada or America would be like, oh, you poor Irish people, get the hell out of here.
Right.
Begging.
Yeah, so there was a little bit of like they changed things up a little bit, and they didn't want that connotation. So some people didn't want to do it, and some people were like, yes, this is our tradition. It's not about that. It's about different stuff. Huh. So I think it did take a while for it to kind of gain traction and become more widespread. So even though the concept of trick-or-treating started in Britain and Ireland and Scotland in the form of souling and guising, they didn't commonly use the term trick-or-treat until the 1980s there.
What?
Yeah. And largely they started using it because it became more popular in part because of the movie E.T.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's surprising. I mean, it was about, you said 20s in Alberta.
Yeah.
It was the first
1927 is the first known use of the term. It might have been used by other people, but that was where it was written down. It first appears.
I wonder, like how that term itself like traveled and how quickly, right? And it's kind of like, that's nuts.
Yeah, and it had like, it said, so after that in like 1928, it appears down in the States somewhere in something. So I think it was becoming kind of common lingo, but because it was like more popular slang or whatever.
But to take that long till the 80s. Wow.
Yeah. Well, because for them, they had such a history of souling and guides. Like, it started there. They didn't have a need to call it something different because it always was called that, right? Yeah. So this is funny. In Ireland, before the phrase trick-or-treat became common in the 2000s, didn't become common there until the 2000s, children would say when they went to the door, help the Halloween party. Like, that was their thing. They wouldn't say trick-or-treat.
Okay.
They'd say help the Halloween party.
That is the cutest thing I have ever heard. Okay, the sparrow thing was the cutest thing, but what?
I know.
Help the Halloween party? It's so, oh
my gosh. So and this isn't really about the history of it, but I thought I'd mention it because it kind of came up. I found it interesting. And for us, like, so I have friends of mine that are from Australia and they live here now and they have young kids. And I said, oh, what are you guys doing for Halloween? Are you taking the girls out trick-or-treating or whatever? And this is the first time that they've lived like in a house since they've lived in Canada and they've got young kids. And my friend was asking me, she was like, how does it work? Like, how do people know that we've got candy? Like, and how do we work it where, like, we want to take the girls trick-or-treating, but does somebody have to be home to hand out candy? Like, she was asking me all these logistic things where I'm like, oh, okay, well, here's how it works. You wait until it gets dark. The little kids go first. They go earliest, and everybody's really nice to them. And, like, even the teenagers will be sweet to the little kids and whatever. And you hand out candy, and then if you've got teenagers that come that aren't really dressed up, you can ask them to do something. They might have to tell you a joke or sing a song or do a dance or whatever. You can make life difficult for them. You don't have to give them candy.
Yeah.
You put it all in a pillowcase. Some people have special bags, but that's like, in my mind, cheating. You just take an old pillowcase and you fill that sucker full of candy.
Yeah. Although kids now are using those grocery store totes, which I find so nice as a person handing out candy.
Yeah.
Because sometimes with the pillowcase, it's like hard to find the opening. I've dropped candy a couple times and I feel so bad for the kids, right? Because they can't see with their masks and we're just bumbling around, right? But so totes, I agree with that.
Logistically. But those stupid little pumpkin things for like the little kids, I'm like, you can't fit anything in there.
I know, but they're kind of cute.
They
the kids
are really
with their
cute,
pumpkins.
but I'm thinking logistically here, you want to get the maximum amount of candy.
True, but do you want that maximum amount of candy inside the tummy of a tiny child?
Good point. I don't have children, so I don't care. Like, I just want it for me.
Yeah,
I want my nieces and nephew to get as much candy as possible so they can share it with me.
Exactly.
That's what I want.
But you know what? A lot of parents, they'll have like a pillowcase with them or a bag with them, and then they just like empty the little bucket.
Empty it into,
But most of like parents, they just want the little, because the kids don't last that long when they're really tiny, right?
Yeah, the little kids don't last that long. That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just so funny having to kind of explain the process to somebody else. I'm like, oh my gosh, I grew up with this. And even like Greg, like my husband Greg, in South Africa, they don't really have Halloween. Yeah. They're starting to a little bit now, but it's definitely not like...
Yeah, there's a joke like online that Australians, a lot of them don't want Halloween. They think it's dumb. Like, they just are annoyed that people are trying to make it happen there.
Are they really?
Yeah, it's kind of funny where I'm like, well, but... what's the harm? Just give kids some candy. It's like such a fun little outlet for them.
It's fun, and it's a fun little like time of the year. It's like, I don't know, what else are you doing? Who cares?
Even if like people don't want to get into like Halloween stuff in terms of like dressing up and Halloween, like the adults, right?
Yeah.
But for the kids, just trick or treating itself, right?
Yeah.
That's why I like your topic so much, because it's like you can really separate. You don't have to get into the whole other side of Halloween. You can just focus on trick or treating.
Exactly.
You know, let the kids just.
Yeah, you can pick and choose what you want to do. Like,
yeah.
You know, I get really annoyed that it's turned into a big, like, slut fest where, like, people are partying so hard and dressing up. But at the same time, if I was a party person,
yeah,
I think that would be super fun. And it's like, I don't have to take part in that, but I'm going to watch a bunch of scary movies and, like, carve a pumpkin.
It's the one, I think, holiday that it's... I mean, yeah, it gives into commercial stuff or whatever, but it's the one thing that you can't really take away from people. It's just pure fun. Yeah. All of it. Yeah. There's nothing, there's no right way to do it. There's no wrong way to do it.
Yeah.
It's literally just the perfect excuse to be, you know, a little like just mischievous.
Let go a little bit and like, I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
I totally agree.
Especially since we all have to hunker, in Canada especially, you're like, it usually snows by Halloween or on Halloween in Alberta. Anyway, sorry, I shouldn't say Canada.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't do that here, but it could be rainy, I suppose, in Vancouver.
But yeah, like, you know, it's
I had
winter's
to explain
right around the corner.
To Greg the other day. I was like, yeah, it usually snowed. It was the first snow like either on Halloween or just before Halloween.
Yeah.
So you had to have two costumes. You had your like really cool, clever costume that you'd wear to school that day.
Yes.
Because you'd do a little parade through school. You'd do all your little activities, maybe a Halloween party, depending on like what grade you were in. And everybody could see your costume, the full thing. So you could be a little bit more subtle, a little bit more like detailed or whatever. And then you had to have your trick-or-treating costume. And it had to be something that either had accessories or some kind of hat or something that they could see. Because your costume would be covered by your snowsuit. Or it had to be something that would fit over your snowsuit.
Yes.
Because you get so cold. Because you're just trudging along outside in like full winter weather.
I know, and the colder it is,
determined.
the more candy I give out where if the kids come by. Oh, my favorite is at the end of the night where there's like the little stragglers. And it's usually, you know, I don't have too many cheaters of the kids who like come back a second time. I have that a couple times. Even then I give them candy. I'm like, you know what? If you took the energy and the time to come to my house twice, I'm like, whatever. But at the end of the night, it's so satisfying to be like, you guys are the last ones. I'm pretty much sure it's like 9 o'clock, right?
Yeah, you're like, here, take 5.
Here, take the rest. Yeah. And they're just like,
they're like,
just loving it.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Best.
But just a quick fact about this guising thing. I had no clue until last year. I'm so sheltered. That Halloween has been kind of like a safe day for like trans kids and like, or even people like gay kids or anybody actually who's like into like drag too.
Because you can dress up however you want. Well, that's usually how a lot of like drag queens say that they started. Like that was their time because they were allowed to.
They were allowed to, and it's so heartbreaking. And I know last year I had these teens came to the door. And there was a young, I have to say boy. I don't know how he identified or she, whatever. But I'll just say he because I can't make assumptions, right? But he had like a very, it was, I don't know if it was a specific
very
character.
well done. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just this beautiful woman at the door kind of thing. And I'm just thinking like, oh, and I had read that fact before. And then he came to the door and I was thinking like, do I say something? Like, how do I be supportive right now? And I was just like, I love your costumes. But then I felt like horrible for saying costume because I'm like, but what if that's an identity thing?
But that's okay because on Halloween it is a costume and it's okay because you don't want to like, you know, call people out either. And
exactly.
Say like, oh, I see that this is your identity and you wish you could dress like this every day in front of his friends.
No, I know. But it was so, it's like that moment, that heartbreak of like, you know, you can go so long without even thinking about that kind of thing. It's like a safe day for some people and it's just like, oh. But also quick shout out to all the custodians. Nobody's going to hear this, but all the custodians because the day after Halloween or like, you know, the week after.
All the kids puking everywhere.
Yes. So, yeah. My poor mom, she's a custodian. And she's like, I can't stand
gosh.
Halloween. Now there's
Yeah.
a limit. Kids usually can't bring candy to school anymore.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't mean that they're not gorging at night and then puking in school the
Exactly.
next day.
So just quickly, I've got a few more
Oh,
points.
sorry.
No, it's all good. But like talking about like our childhood things, so I saw something on there that in the 1980s there was a lot of paranoia about poisoned Halloween candy, and I was like,
Right.
of course. All
razor
we ever
blades.
heard was razor blades in apples for some reason. I'm like, well, who wants to eat the apples anyway? And we always had to have our Halloween checked, like, or our candy checked.
Candy, yeah.
So, like, some places you would take your candy to a police station and have them check it. Some were just like, which was crazy. We never did that.
No,
but like
yeah.
my mom would check our candy first. We would never eat anything that looked like it was like packaged at
Tampered.
home, or some people
Yeah.
like made their own little bags of popcorn or whatever. I'm like, I don't want this crap. Like, you need to give me pre-packaged food. So you'd know when you went to the door and somebody
Yeah.
gave you like, oh, we baked cookies for you. You're like, I can't eat this. I'm not going
And
to eat
some
this.
people are trying to like, bring that back a little bit. And apparently in
I
the
wouldn't
UK,
do that.
they
You're
do
a stranger.
That. I know.
I don't want
but
your
I had
soul
a friend
cake.
who would bake for Halloween and hand out. And I'm
Why?
thinking, I would never.
No,
I couldn't.
I would
I'd be
never do
like,
that.
No.
Who
Food
in their right
safety?
mind would eat something like cooked by a stranger?
And
I
apparently,
mean, I
it's a
guess
thing
we
some
do
people
when we
do.
go to restaurants all the time, but still,
But they
there are
have their
certain
health codes
rules and
yeah.
guidelines. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's crazy, because it's just the way that we grew up. That's always what we knew, that you had to check your candy.
Yeah.
So generally, it's that paranoia was not founded really on anything, but
Oh.
there have been a couple of poisoning incidents. And the most famous one is from 1974 when Ronald O'Brien gave cyanide-laced pixie sticks to 5 kids, including his son. The other kids never ate the candy, but his 8-year-old son did eat it, and he died from it. And then there was like the whole Tylenol. There was a big Tylenol thing, the Tylenol Murders or whatever. Like, so
Yeah.
people were getting, around that time, everybody was getting paranoid about poisoning.
Whoa.
So it didn't really like happen with trick-or-treating all that much.
Right.
But those few little instances really made people paranoid and like created
Yeah.
a big thing. Like, I even tried to look up, I'm like, were there ever any razor blades in apples? Like, was that a thing? And there's
you looked it up?
There's a whole Wikipedia thing about the
Yeah.
razor blade in apples myth, and that it wasn't real, that it never
Oh.
happened. And that it was something, like, I didn't read the whole thing of it, but I was like, interesting that there's a thing in there and that it's a myth, that it's an urban legend.
Oh my gosh.
But it was
Yeah.
such a thing. Like, it's so ingrained in me now, even, you know?
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Okay, so just to summarize, it's suggested that trick-or-treating evolved from a tradition whereby people impersonated the spirits or souls of the dead and received offerings on their behalf. Impersonating these spirits and souls was also believed to protect oneself from them, because they were tricking the spirits into thinking you're one
Right.
of them. And today, Americans spend an estimated $2.6 billion on candy on Halloween, and the day itself has become the nation's second largest commercial holiday.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? Second largest commercial holiday. That's insane.
I mean, it makes sense because even like my mom, she's not a huge fan of like sweets, right? But even she will buy extra candy so she can steal like, the occasional
That's
like
the only reason
M&Ms,
I buy candy.
right?
I
You
always
buy one
buy
for them, one for me situation.
Yeah, I always buy Halloween candy. I don't give out stuff. I live in an apartment building. Nobody comes trick-or-treating to my door. And I even had it when I lived in my old place that wasn't in an apartment. It was a duplex. And that I bought candy, and I was like, yes, I always buy the kind that I like. Obviously, you have to buy the
Yeah.
kind that you like.
Exactly.
And I was like, I'm not going to get very many kids, but just in case, like, I'll get some. And then I was like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. Nobody's coming by. And then kids started to come by, and I started getting really angry where I was like, damn it. Like, I was depending on this candy for my
Yeah.
treats later.
But you know what I will never do? Buy the next day candy sales. Like,
Yeah, no.
because it all goes, super discount the day after.
Yeah, no.
And I won't do it because it doesn't
It's
count.
wrong. It doesn't count.
Yeah, even though I'm eating it after Halloween, I'm
It
like,
doesn't
no,
matter.
It has to be
It has to be purchased
Leftover,
before or on Halloween.
With the intent to give it to kids.
Yeah.
But you don't.
And then you're allowed to eat the leftovers, and it's calorie free. And those are the rules.
Yeah, of course. The amount of mini Kit Kats I've been eating, because guess who found an old bag of leftover candy from last year? Me.
Oh, no.
I'm disgusting. I'm not even supposed to eat chocolate. I'm like, doesn't look
I
that
actually
bad.
haven't bought any Halloween candy this year yet because I'm like on a very health kick right now.
Yeah. Well.
But I'm going to the store tomorrow, so I'll probably get some. We're going camping this weekend, so.
Get an apple.
With razor blades in it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, come on.
You know what I never understood and never liked was the whole bobbing for apples thing. That just always pissed me off. I'm like, who wants to get their face all wet and gross and your hair's all gross? Who's
But kids
bobbing
don't
for
care.
apples? What kind of stupid game is that?
It is a stupid game. But, I
Right?
mean, although, yeah. No, that is weird. My thing is, like, bending over. Isn't that awkward? Because wasn't it in, like, a barrel originally?
Yeah,
Like,
and your
probably
hands are like behind your back. It's like, what's happening? Okay, maybe that's a topic for a different episode.
Nope. There is nothing there that needs to be delved
I think
into.
everything's a topic. Like, please don't.
Well, I was gonna like research apples with razor blades. I'm like, that's not a whole show, you idiot.
It
And you
is.
researched
It is
it
now.
It is now. Next week on.
Ooh, next week, yeah. All right. Thanks for listening, guys. And also, we're on Instagram now. So if you guys want to follow us or send us messages, or if you have suggestions about topics you want us to cover, you can send us a DM in there. We are podcast.or.something on Instagram. And we're going to start posting stuff there someday or something.
Did you
Whatever.
hear my boss just now, like, with that subtle passive aggressive?
I was going to say you
We're
were going to do
gonna
it.
start posting, right, Karla? Yes.
Get to
So
work over there, you
I'm-
slacker.
Oh, I know. Apart from that, I'm going to brew my own ale to hand out to the children. Now let's see how that goes this year.
And I am going to go make some food that's not dog kibble. All right. Talk to you next week, guys. Bye.
Bye.